Hi everyone, it is Chasing Dreams Thursdays, and I am so happy to see you. Hi Nikki, you I think are the first person to sign in. Good to see you. Nice. So, this is week 2 of streaming also on YouTube and our Facebook Live. Um, Welcome to our Instagram Live users as well. I'm figuring out all of this wonderful technology. I'm so excited. Nice. All right, so as usual, we start off with what is that small step that you took towards chasing your dreams this week? And my small step this week, was actually reaching out. One of the interesting things with being so much more present online is that a lot of people reach out with their services, and particularly when it comes to marketing and branding. And so I decided to actually accept one of those invitations to have a conversation. And it was absolutely enlightening. The person who I spoke to, and it was from a marketing firm, and they cater to a lot of small, medium-sized businesses, and it was just great. It was so enlightening. They too are an author, even though they're in the world of marketing, and it ended up being such an energizing conversation. So I reached out to my comfort zone, and it was great. It actually turned out to go really well. So how did you step out and work towards your dreams this week? What little step did you take towards manifesting those dreams that you're working on? So if you could put that in the chat, that would be great. Yes, Nikki, I know what step you took. You're involved in a really interesting course, which is just wonderful. I think that's what you mean by your response. If I've jumped the gun, feel free to correct me and put that in the chat. While you're doing that, I did want to follow up on a question that was asked last week. So Craig had queried making the New York Times best-selling list, and I did my homework. I feel like I had actually looked into this before and just didn't remember what the answer was. If you are a self-published author, you do not qualify to be on the New York Times bestseller list. You do have to be traditionally published, and you also need to have made sales of like 10,000 copies in that week, I believe. I don't think it's a month, but your sale numbers need to be extremely high. Oh, nice, Nikki. Okay, good. So I'm happy to see that your course is going well and that you are setting your goals and your intentions, which is so important. Like, you have to know what you're aiming towards, right? Hello, Richard. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Good to have you back on. We're still at that point in our discussion where we're talking about what little step you took towards chasing your dreams. So if you want to share that as well, go right ahead. And you mentioned the New York Times bestsellers list again, Nikki. It's actually quite common, not just with the bestsellers list, but some of the awards and some of the more prestigious awards that are there. Some of these things are not open to self-publishers. They're opening up slowly, but I believe it's coming from a time where there was this feeling that self-published authors did not go through the rigor that an author who is traditionally self-published would. If you're traditionally self-published, then your manuscript has to be approved, and it goes through these layers of revisions and edits, and there is this belief that self-published authors completely bypass that process, and so their books can't possibly be as good. Now, that sentiment has changed and continues to change, and as that happens, you find that a lot of these awards and lists are changing their criteria. So I know last week we talked about the benefits of awards, and you'll find that more and more there are self-publishing organizations who set up their own award system. But there are also more traditional awards that have now, those committees have either opened the awards completely so that anyone can participate, or they have special categories geared for self-published authors. So times are changing slowly but surely, so don't be surprised if there's still some gatekeepers still left in the publishing world with regards to what self-published authors can participate in or not. All right, so let me jump in. What I wanted to talk about tonight was writing communities. And a couple of weeks ago, I had done my kind of special launch of my writing community, my founders launch. And unfortunately, the technology wasn't working. So the site that I had chosen to use as my site to accept applications was not going through, subscriptions were not being updated or recorded any at all. So I decided to hit pause and thought that I would revisit the launch in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, kind of have a conversation with a few of you who had sent questions regarding what a community, a writers community, looks like, what it entails, and what the Chasing Dreams community would look like. So I thought it would be good to spend some time addressing that this evening. If you see my eyes diverting periodically, it's because there's a very big cockroach on the other side of the room. And yes, I'm not getting up to chase it away, but I'm watching it cautiously. Our writers community. So our writers community generally is just a space where writers can come together and support each other and find additional advice and guidance on their particular writing goals. And writers communities can be structured in any number of ways. There are many models online, and if you just go on and do a quick check, you will find that there is a writers community group for everyone, for every type of genre, for every type of personality, for every budget. What the Chasing Dreams writers community, what our goal is, which is why I thought it was such a good idea to launch a subscription community, is that I thought there needed to be a space to support writers, not just with regards to the actual physical act of writing and layouts, but the range, the spectrum that writers fall on, from starting their manuscript all the way to actually launching, making it available for sale, and marketing it. There's so many stages along that whole process, and I think self-publishing in particular is a little peculiar to navigate. There's so many avenues that you can take. There's so much information out there. It's really difficult to kind of sift through, especially if you are new to the game and you really have no idea where to start. So the idea with the Chasing Dreams subscription community was it was an extension of these Thursday night lives. You guys asked some amazing questions, and I thought there was some value in creating a more permanent space where we could meet and discuss and provide the support that was a little bit more targeted on a regular basis. So the idea is to create an environment that is tailored towards or caters towards the different stages that writers are at, whether you're just starting writing or whether you have written and published your first novel but you're trying to navigate the marketing space, or perhaps you published your first novel and you need to know what next, right? How else can you lend your voice to the world of writers and expand and challenge yourself in new and different ways? And the thinking was that we would have a space where once you've enrolled, there's a writer's drop-in session where if you need that accountability aspect, if you're one of those persons who really needs to know that there's a time and a place when you write, then that's what we would facilitate. Once a week we would meet online, it's all virtual, and we meet and just write. Whether you needed some assistance with a prompt or if you had something working on and you just needed to develop that discipline of showing up. And then we'd also have another session in the week where we would meet and and access some coaching. We'd meet every Saturday or whatever day we chose, and it would be a time to talk about the projects we're working on, talk through some of the challenges we're facing, and then once a month that session would be devoted to bringing in a guest speaker. So based on your concerns and your challenges, bring in an expert in the field who can address your questions and your concerns in a more expansive way. In addition to that, there would be monthly newsletters, and you would continue to have access to these Thursday Lives, and if we have any special events, webinars or e-courses that evolve from the community and the needs of the community, then certainly that's covered in your subscription, and anyone else who wants to participate would have to pay a fee separately for that. So the idea is to just create a space for writers where we can talk, evolve, challenge ourselves, and meet our writing goals. I don't know if you have any questions regarding what I've just said. Again, there are many models to this, and if you do your research online, you'll find a range of communities that cater to different writers, and the goal is to find somewhere that you are comfortable. The goal is to find somewhere where you feel that you can show up and grow. It's a space where you can just be your authentic self, and that's our goal, to provide that for you. We're all on a journey, and so the first cohort of this would certainly be the cohort that tests and gives feedback, and it's a first group to really kind of stretch the parameters of that initial idea, and stretch it and help it to grow and conform into something that is absolutely useful to writers generally. So look out for that information. There's going to be more information coming about how to sign up, when we'll get started. There'll be a certain period of time for enrollment, but the idea is that we'll really open enrollment maybe twice a year, so that we can grow comfortably as a community, rather than constantly having persons dropping in on a regular basis and making it difficult to really kind of connect and get to know each other. All of this information, yes, Nikki, will be placed on the website, and I will continue to share more on our social media platforms, so that if you are interested, you'll know where to find that information, how to sign up, what it will cost, what are the dates, the opening dates, so that you can put that information in your calendars and plan accordingly. So that is the thought. What are the benefits? Because I'm sure you must be wondering, why would I want to do this? You drop in, you do your research, you figure you're kind of managing on your own. I would suggest that one of the primary benefits of doing this would be accountability. Very often we do think we're on track, but when life gets very hectic, or when there is, some really difficult circumstance that comes up that can throw us for a loop and we can't focus, a writing community helps you to stay on a track. It's that community that says, hey, we've got your back, we're showing up at this time, yes, we can do this. So there's an accountability aspect to it. You have a group of persons who have agreed to show up at the same time, and they are there to ensure that you stay on track with your writing goals. The second reason I think this is really important and useful is that we don't have all the answers. And even if you have self-published your second or third book, the information is always evolving. The systems are always evolving. There are always new and more efficient ways to do things. There's always some bit of information that we just don't know. And so creating a community allows us access to additional information, more efficient ways of doing things, just broadening our perspective in a way that for most of us, we just don't have the time. Many of us just don't have the time to do this research. And so if we pool our collective experiences, there's just so much more that we can accomplish and discover together. And thirdly, the other reason that this is a really good space and a good idea is that it allows us a space to harness the expertise of others who we can share that collectively. And I've just phrased that very badly, so let me start over. My third point is we can together access experts. So if we are all having the same question about marketing, or we're all having the same question about budgeting for the release of a book, it's so much easier to bring an expert in to answer all our questions rather than each of us trying to find our own expert. So it's a nice space where we can just come together and just use our resources efficiently to tap into the goals that we have. It's tailored to all writing, not just book. All types of writing. So whether it is, and this doesn't mean writing to publish. You know, if your goal is to publish, great. If your goal is really just to publish your memoirs and have it as something that you leave your family, if you just want to write, if it's just a hobby and a discipline that you want to develop, so you're just writing weekly just for your own joy, not with the intention to sell or to publish eventually. It could be a blog, it could be newsletters, like whatever writing you're interested in. You are welcome wherever you are on that self-publishing journey. So whether maybe you have already written and what you need is some support in marketing and developing a marketing plan and having the discipline to sit and work through different aspects of that plan. So the goal is writing, yes, but also to support other aspects of publishing. So we would have that one session per week, Nikki, where everybody comes and writes. But then we'd also have that additional session in the week where we meet to talk about other aspects of publishing for persons who are not interested in or who don't need that kind of writing support. So it's publishing overall is what the community is supporting writers on. So those are my thoughts. That's the why we're going to start the community. That's the rationale behind it, the overarching goal and who we want to help. And those, I think, are my 3 takeaways on why I think it's such a good initiative and why I think it's so useful. The accountability, using resources efficiently to tap into experts in the field, and certainly harnessing and pulling together and tap into each other's experiences as well and knowledge base. So think about it. There'll definitely be more information on that over the next week or 2, so that if you're interested or if you know anyone who's interested, you can sign up. And in the meantime, keep joining us here on a Thursday. Our website is IamLisaMcLean.com. There is there's a blog that comes out every 2 weeks with additional information based on what we talk about here. And so if you just want to kind of be in the loop and make that connection, definitely just check us out. And if you look at the link in our Instagram bio, then you'll see the links to anything that we have available, you know, whether it's just trying to access blogs or merchandise or books. It's all there, IamLisaMcLean.com. So I don't know, any other questions that you guys may have, whether it's related to the topic for tonight or anything else about writing that you're interested in. Or any other, you know, mini goals that you've accomplished this week that you want to share, anything that you want us to celebrate. And while you're sharing that, I have to say, you know, I had one of my writers classes today with one of my younger members. And I say young, I mean, he's like 8 or 9. And we were talking about, you know, revising and editing. It was so interesting. And of course, at that age, you're like, oh my gosh, I hate writing. Writing isn't a story, it's like 100 words. And I said, okay, come, let's revise and edit. And he was a little reluctant. And after we had started going through the checklist on what to look for, and he was like, oh, when he realized the little bits that he had left out, the little words that he thought that were there. And I say this because, no, I don't, you know, our writers community is not necessarily geared towards children, but it just goes to show that at any age, that's kind of support. Just somebody to say, have you thought of? Did you try? You know, is just so important. when plotting out my book, do I write a skeleton? Depends on the length. So if I'm writing something relatively short, like for most of my picture books, no, I haven't. But for my longer books, so for example, the one that I was revisiting, the one that I told you that I wanted to expand and move from my 3,000 to my 30,000, I found, yes, I couldn't work on the fly like I normally do. I actually kind of had to stop and decide how I was going to expand, what the main plot was going to be, and some of the minor plots. And I had to see how they all fit together. So I think it's going to depend on your personality, and I think it's also going to depend on what you're writing and the length of what you're writing, for sure. And you definitely want to look into that, because there are some standard requirements for lengths and the types of book that you're writing, for sure. That's a good question, Nikki. Thank you for asking. And then, of course, even outside of a skeleton, there's so many story structures that you can use. And it's really finding one that resonates with you. I find many of them to be overly complex. I think simpler is better if you have a nice, easy kind of structure, and then you build out from there. But again, there are a lot of systems, definitely a lot of systems. I can send some of that information to you if you find that helpful. Or I can post some in the comment section after. Slow. My rewriting is going slowly. And because it's a huge undertaking, it's a really big jump and a total kind of revamping of what my original idea was. But it's also rethinking the age group too, right? And I think I was initially underestimating what that age group would want to read. So this is for, like 8 to 12. And so I've had to really go back to the drawing board, look back at what's current, and look back at some of my favorite books from that time period, and remind myself that it actually is an age group that does enjoy interesting plots with multiple storylines. They're not afraid of complex themes, and I needed to give them that credit, right? So I needed to be able to delve a little bit more into my character's background and honor the audience that I was writing to, not think that they would not be interested in a far more complex text. So very slow because I'm now, a lot of revamping that I hadn't originally considered. But worth it. Absolutely worth it, for sure. Yes, and I think too, I think we forget when we get older. I think we become so sensitive towards exposing children that we forget that they probably don't read into many of these themes. So for example, if it were a horror text, preteens and slightly older teens love horror texts, and they're not as spooked by the events as we are as adults. We as adults, I think, when we start to interpret a lot of the actions in the text, layer them with all of our experiences. Whereas I think kids just take it and go, all right, okay, that's, it is what it is. And I don't think they are as emotionally invested in some of the content as we become when we read it, just because we look at it from a far more experienced and traumatized lens. So, I was having a conversation with my niece, and she was telling me about a book she was reading, and she was like, oh my gosh, there were so many levels, and I thought, oh, that's kind of scary, but she was not taking it on with the same kind of energy. And so I had to remind myself, you know what? They keep things at a far more superficial level than we do as well. And I have to remind myself that as a teenager, I loved Stephen King. absolutely loved Stephen King. And I didn't find his books horrifying. I thought his plots were so interesting. It was really only as an adult that I realized, oh my gosh, his content is so heavy, and can you imagine if this really happened in real life? I didn't think that when I read his books originally. It didn't occur to me that these things would ever happen in real life. I really just took them for what they were. So, hello, Cozy Box. Hi, Shafia, good to see you. Good to see you. So I guess this is where it's really important to know your audience beforehand, to really kind of, marketing people talk about, establishing your avatar. You do have to know your audience. You have to know what they read, what they like to read. Take a look at a lot of very popular books for that age group to see what they are comfortable digesting. Again, younger audiences don't always delve into issues in the same way an adult would. So definitely study your audience, hash that out in detail. Who is your audience? Their gender, their income level, the complexity of texts that they tend to like. What do they want to read? What themes do they appreciate? Oh, I agree with you totally. Tapping into a young reader's imagination is the best way to go. And I had to remind myself that they do have very vivid imaginations. There are no limitations to what they come up with at all. For sure. All right, nice. Okay, so we're about 2 minutes away to wrapping up. So good to see everybody out tonight. This is great. Shape, it's good to see you. I think we've missed you the last couple of weeks. It's good to see you online. Those of you who are not familiar with Cozy Corner books, definitely you should go and check them out. They have got to be the most vibrant children's bookstore that I'm aware of in Jamaica right now. So definitely go take a look, for sure. And they have these lovely book boxes with activity books. So definitely go say hi and see what they have in stock. They typically carry my books. They are my go-to people for distribution. Occasionally I'll have it elsewhere, but I love the ethos of Cozy Corner Books as a bookstore, because it really is about developing a love of reading for kids. So definitely go take a look. So let me know if you have any last questions before I go on our writers community. Certainly, if you jumped in late, definitely go back to the beginning to take in what we discussed on why writing communities are helpful, how ours will be structured when it's launched, and you can look for that information in the next couple of weeks. And definitely just stay tuned. I'm pretty excited about expanding our community and giving you some more options towards writing and supporting your writer's goals. So, we've reached the end of our Chasing Dreams Lives for tonight. Just want to remind you to chase those dreams. Remember to take one little step towards working towards your goals this week. Have an awesome weekend, and I look forward to seeing you again next week, Thursday. And remember to check us out at IamLisaMcLean.com for all things writing, books, merchandise, or just to say hi. Have a great weekend. Thanks for joining. Take care.